If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to the channel. The island the map almost missed. The canals of Xochimilco move slowly, the way water moves when it has nowhere urgent to go. On the southern edge of Mexico City, where the old lake system has been reduced to a network of muddy channels, the chinampas sit low in the water, half submerged and thick with reeds. Tourists come on weekends in painted wooden boats, drifting past marigolds and food vendors. But the boats rarely go far from the main routes. The deeper channels are narrow, overgrown, and quiet in a way that feels less like peace and more like held breath. Somewhere inside that maze of waterways sat a small island with no official name on any city map. It measured perhaps 100 meters at its longest point. Willow roots held its soft earth together at the edges. Beyond that, it was just soil, weeds, and whatever a man chose to build there. Don Julian Santana Barrera chose it completely. He left his family, a wife, children, and settled on this chinampa alone. Those who knew him described a man pulled inward, deeply Catholic, given to long silences and private fears. Something was troubling him before he arrived, though no one who spoke about it could agree on exactly what. He lived there for roughly 50 years, and in all that time, almost no one truly knew what was happening on that island. The First Doll. The story of the Island of the Dolls begins with a dead child and a single doll pulled from muddy water. And almost everything after that flows from Don Julian's own telling of it. He said he found her floating in the canal, a girl, young, already gone by the time he reached her. He did not know her name, he did not know where she came from. And according to every version of the account that survives, no one ever came to claim her. Shortly after, a doll appeared in that same stretch of water. He believed it was hers, so he hung it from a tree. No death record from that period and that location has ever been found to confirm the drowning. Local historians have looked, journalists have asked. The silence in the official record is complete. That silence does not prove nothing happened. Rural deaths in mid-century Mexico were frequently undocumented, particularly among the poor. But it means the entire origin of this place rests on the word of one man, spoken decades after the fact, to people who were already standing inside what that memory had built. What he felt in that moment, guilt, grief, fear, or something he could not name, he never fully explained. He only said that after he hung the doll, something still did not feel right. A forest of faces. One doll became 10. 10 became hundreds. By the time anyone thought to count, there were thousands, hanging from branches, lashed to fence posts, pinned against the trunks of trees like specimens in some forgotten collection. Don Julian moved through it all quietly, adding, rearranging, accepting each new arrival as though it had been expected. He traded squash and chili peppers for them. He pulled them from the dark water of the canals, waterlogged and soft. He dried them out and hung them anyway, missing arms, cracked skulls, faces where the paint had bubbled and peeled into something unrecognizable. Whatever condition they arrived in seemed not to matter to him. What mattered, he said, was that they were there. Visitors who made the boat journey described two completely different places. One group saw sincerity, a man living inside his own private devotion, building something that had the weight of a genuine offering. The other group saw something that pressed against a nerve they could not name. The faces of children, frozen and rotting, covering every surface of an island that the trees seemed to be slowly swallowing. Don Julian never acknowledged the gap between those two readings. He did not seem to find it strange that others found his home disturbing. He was not building for them. The death in the ditch. He was found face down in the water sometime in the morning. The canal was shallow, barely deep enough to be dangerous for a man standing upright. Don Julian Santana Barrera was 72 years old, and his heart had been weakening for some time. The official record is brief. Cardiac arrest, drowning, April 2001. On paper, it is the kind of death that needs no further explanation. but his nephew Anastasio had been with him earlier that day. He later told those who asked that Don Julian had been speaking in ways that were difficult to follow, talking about mermaids rising in the canal, about girls singing somewhere near the water's edge. Anastasio did not say his uncle was frightened. He said he seemed far away. The canal he died in was the same one he had pointed to for 50 years as the place where everything began, where he said he pulled a small girl's body from the water, and where he left the first doll as an offering. That detail does not appear in the medical report. It did not need to. Everyone who knew the island already knew it. What no one has been able to answer cleanly is whether he walked to the canal, fell there, or was drawn to it in those final hours by something he heard or saw that no one else could. What the island became. After Don Julian died, the island did not stay quiet. Within a few years, television crews arrived with equipment cases and release forms. Ghost hunting programs filmed there at night, pointing thermal cameras at the dolls and playing audio recordings back at low volume, listening for voices. The island was described, in broadcast after broadcast, as cursed, demonic, a place where something ancient and malevolent had taken root. None of that language came from Don Julian. He had spoken of a restless girl, of offering her comfort, of keeping a promise he felt he owed her. The horror framing came from somewhere else entirely. Tour boats now run scheduled stops through the Xochimilco canals specifically for the island. Visitors pay an entrance fee. New dolls arrive constantly, hung by tourists who want to participate in something they experienced as frightening and strange. The island's collection is no longer only Don Julian's. It is now partly his, partly the world's, the two layers pressed together and impossible to fully separate. What gets lost in that layering is precision. Don Julian's practice was rooted in Catholic folk tradition and private grief. It was not performance. But the version that travels, through television, through travel writing, through social media, strips that context away and replaces it with a simpler story, a cursed place, a dead man, dolls that move on their own. His family manages the site now. What they believe about the island, and whether the income reconciles easily with the distortion of his memory, has not been publicly answered. The things we cannot explain. What remains when everything is stripped back is a simple set of facts sitting in uncomfortable proximity to each other. A man lived alone for decades. A girl, he said, had drowned. He hung dolls until the trees could hold no more. Then he died in the same water. No record of the girl has ever been found. That absence is not proof she never existed, but it means the entire architecture of Don Julian's life, every doll, every sleepless night, every whispered explanation he gave to visitors, stands on ground that cannot be confirmed. One man's account, one man now gone. The visitor testimonies sit equally unresolved. Dozens of people arriving separately, describing the same things. Eyes that follow, mouths that move, sounds from dolls with no mechanism to produce them. Too many to ignore, not enough to explain. The canal where Don Julian was found is the same canal he named for 50 years. Whether that is coincidence, or pattern, or something the evidence simply refuses to answer, no record settles it. The dolls hang there still, rotting slowly, accumulating quietly, waiting for a question no one has yet been able to finish asking.